This is an interview with J. Krishnamurti by Dusty Sklar in New York, 1966.
I'm Dusty Sklar. I'm about to speak with a remarkable man whose understanding of the world has not received the attention it deserves, Mr. J. Krishnamurti. He's in New York to deliver a series of talks at the New School. His books, published by Harper's, are deceptively simple, full of paradox and originality. Empty your mind of preconceptions as you hear him speak. If you listen, really listen, he may change your life. Mr. Krishnamurti, after reading your books, one is reluctant to use lightly words such as knowledge, thought, mind, ideas. Isn't all language symbolic? What do these words mean to you?
After all, one has to use words.
Yes.
And words have a certain definite meaning. Common words
Yes.
which we use. So words are the fact,
Yes.
are not the thing. The door, the actual door is not the word. Door.
Yes.
But we generally get mixed up with the word and not with the fact.
Yes. I know what you mean. You have said that the self is a bore, the self is nothing, and also that it's necessary to know yourself.
Yes.
Could you explain this paradox?
After all, I mean, if you don't know yourself,
Yes.
what you think, what you feel, what are your reactions, you have no basis for any actual thinking,
Yes.
factual thinking rather. You know what I mean? You can just pretend on the surface that you are thinking, but actually, if you don't know your whole content of yourself, one gets so confused. Then you are under the influence of everybody.
One has to first understand the instrument that's doing the thinking about the outside world.
Of course.
So then, the self, if you're involved with the self in one way, it's a bore, and if you're involved in understanding the self in another way, it's enlightening and interesting.
Yes.
Yeah. Can the self ever be wholly absent? You know, what would an individual be like without a self? 'Cause sometimes I get.
It all depends what you call the self.
Yeah. Well,
And generally we use that word, don't we, to identify oneself. I am, I am not, I like, I don't like, I wish, and so on, so on.
yes.
So it is really the self is a bundle of memories,
Yes.
past experiences.
But when you talk about the self that must be understood, you're not thinking of it as a bundle of memories,
Oh, of course, yeah, I'm thinking of the whole total entity.
the total entity, which is it an individual, personal entity though? I mean,
No, it's not.
it's not.
After all, the self is the result of the society, the culture, the environment, the food, the climate in which it has lived,
Yes,
the tradition, the whole environmental influence
yes,
which has created this entity.
yes,
And this entity tries to separate itself from society. But it is society.
yes.
The two things are not separate. The self and society are not separate.
But then you also seem to have another I hesitate to use the word idea, but another
Go ahead, this matter, will you?
idea of the self. that is almost like a universal, like.
No, but I understand. Let's differentiate between man and the individual.
Yes.
Human being and the individual.
Right.
The individual is the local entity.
The local entity. Yes.
Isn't it?
Yes.
American, Indian, Russian.
Right.
With his labels, with his particular technical knowledge and so on, so on, so on.
Yes.
But the human being is the Indian, the American, the Russian, the Chinese.
Yes.
You see the difference?
Yes.
Yeah.
Let me think. Do I see the difference?
I mean, after all, we are human beings first.
Yes.
I'm not an Indian.
Right.
You're not an American.
Right.
We are human beings.
Of course, yes.
But the human being is denied when the individual takes more importance.
I see.
When individuality becomes most important.
Right.
After all, you suffer, he suffers. We have the same problem more or less like the Russian, the Hindu.
So you say the individual is denied when individuality becomes most important?
No. The individual is the local entity.
Right.
Right?
Right.
The American, the Indian, the Russian.
Oh, I see. That's how you think of the individual.
It is the individual.
Isn't it also everything that I am uniquely apart from any other phenomenon in the universe?
Yes, but wait a minute, it all depends again when you say unique.
Right. Yeah.
What do you mean by that word unique?
I mean that there's a part of me that's like,
which is not,
that has a human nature.
Yeah, which is unlike another.
Which is unlike another, right. And that's what I call unique.
Yeah, which is unlike another.
That's right. So,
what's the question?
Is that the part of me that gives me pain?
What gives you pain? What makes one a human being, whether it doesn't matter, wherever he is, what gives him pain? Anxiety, guilt, the sense of hopelessness, despair, the whole human.
Yes, you have said that it's because he wants things to be other than the way they are.
That's only part of it.
Only part of it. There are many reasons why.
Well, of course.
Yes. Do you feel that to most people pain is preferable to facing the void? You know, that suffering is better than peace to most people. They equate peace with death, it seems to me.
No, I know. But, you know, when one goes through suffering of any kind, whether it is the death of somebody, whether failure in job, you know,
yes.
One suffers.
One suffers for sure.
For innumerable reasons,
right.
One suffers. And when one is suffering, one is incapable of thinking clearly.
Right. Yes.
Thinking, feeling, seeing things very clearly.
Right. I have experienced that.
Most human beings have been so educated to bear up with suffering, put up with it.
Yes.
You understand?
Yes, I know what you mean. But
they never say, look, let's find out if it is possible to live without sorrow.
But my feeling is, I can't be sure about this, but I wondered what you thought, is that most people confronted with your ideas, your books, would not be attracted by the prospect of a life without suffering. To them that would be equivalent to not being, and in a way they're right.
So wait a minute, it means you are saying, aren't you, that where there is love, there is jealousy, hate.
No, I wasn't speaking of love.
It is same thing.
What? Love is the same.
I mean, after all, I suffer. One suffers.
Yes.
Why? Because my wife has run away or my husband has run away. Doesn't look so.
Yes.
And I'm jealous.
Yes.
And I suffer.
Right.
So, sorrow exists as long as there is jealousy in relationship with another, that relationship which we call love.
But if you give most people a way to avoid suffering, as I think you have, I mean, if one reads your books, one finds a way to avoid suffering, to eliminate suffering.
Yes. No, I don't see why we should suffer. I don't see the point of it.
So then why aren't most people attracted to the ideas that you present?
Because perhaps they feel that it is possible to live without suffering.
I don't know if you're understanding me.
And then
I'm saying that most people are not, I believe, attracted to your ideas, or would not be.
Because you are saying if a life without sorrow is a meaningless life.
They equate it with not being.
That's it.
And they're right in a way because they wouldn't be themselves as they now are.
What are they now?
They're miserable wretches, suffering,
So you want
feeling pain, but they feel alive. You have said somewhere that through all this, they feel their own vitality.
Of course.
Through contradiction and suffering, they feel vitality.
They feel they're living.
They feel they're
I mean,
living.
like the competition.
Right.
In this country and all over the world.
It's a keen pleasure.
Gives them intense pleasure, and that pleasure makes them feel they're alive.
Right. So,
and what is implied in competition? They take the surface value of it. What is implied in competition? A ruthlessness, a self-destructive process, and they're all seeking security, which denies when you are competitive, not only individual competitiveness, but racial, economic,
yes, yes.
So the thing which you want, which is security,
yes.
Everybody wants that. That is being denied through competition.
Right. I see that.
Through nationalism.
Right.
Of course.
I see that, but I believe that you must have found that most people, when you present these perfectly reasonable ideas to them, would say, well, that may be so, but if you eliminate competition, or if you eliminate nationalism, you're just changing human nature.
Why not?
Yeah.
Why not? For God's sake, we have had 2 wars, dreadful wars. Why can't we have peace? And to have peace, no nationalism. Nationalism is a poison. Why have it? Well, I know why people don't want to change. It isn't that they don't see the reason of it, the logic, reason, the sanity of it, but say, for God's sake, it's too difficult, what bother about it?
Yes, yes.
I think that is the real source of it. Not that they are indifferent, they say, well, it's too much work.
Yes, I think that's so too. But isn't this part of their general pattern of being half conscious or half dead?
Half alive.
Half alive. So how is one to wake them up? Or is it the responsibility, or not the responsibility?
No, look at it in a different way. The people have been put to sleep through religions.
Yes.
Through philosophies, through theologies, which have helped man to believe.
Right.
They believe in God, they believe in this and they believe in that. And now all belief is going. Nobody believes in anything anymore. And so you have all the beatniks and all, the brushing away of what is past, but it's mere reaction. It's not a real inquiry and examination and coming to something.
Do you feel that things are more hopeless now than they've been in the past, or about the same?
About the same, don't you?
About the same, I guess. It seems to me as if there's always...
After all, we've had 40, from 5000 BC, there have been 14,000 wars or more.
Yes. I haven't counted them, but...
I believe so, historically this is...
14,000 wars?
No, near 14,500. That means 2.5 wars. No, 2.5 wars every year.
2.5 wars every year. That's interesting. And
so look at it. And we're still going on the same way. Man has chosen war as the way of life. Not Vietnam, I'm not talking that particular war. The whole way of existence is war.
yes.
So man doesn't want peace.
Yeah, it certainly would seem that way.
No, not see, they don't want it.
Absolutely is that way. You're
To
right.
have peace, you must live peacefully. Which means no nationalism, no separate geographical differences, no separate governments.
Let me ask you this, Mr. Krishnamurti. Even if the large majority of people saw what you just said, that they must not have separate governments, that many of their activities lead to war, even if a large majority of individuals saw that, wouldn't, the state, has been called the state, wouldn't the state see to it
that they are destroyed?
Pardon?
See to it that they are destroyed.
Right, yes.
Probably they would.
If everybody went around talking and writing as you did, wouldn't they be destroyed?
They would.
Which brings me to another question. Have you ever encountered pressures?
Little bit.
You wouldn't care to talk
No,
about
it's not worth it.
Yes. So what ought one to do if one feels...
No, if you feel that, drop it. If you feel nationalism is a poison,
then drop it, right.
Drop it and see what happens.
Okay.
Live that way.
Well, I can tell you that from my own experience it has had amazing results in my life, yes. But I was about to ask you about your views on leaders. I mean, if one feels that he perceives the truth...
Why do you want a leader?
I don't want a leader.
Why anybody wants a leader?
Because
That
they're confused.
led you to misery. You know, this very strange phenomenon. They believe in God,
Yeah.
Not that to me God is something entirely not belief, it's not a matter of belief. Now, they believe in God, and they can't go directly to God, but through through the priest.
Yes.
Hmm?
Right. The priest, yes.
Priest. So, if I really want to find out what God is, I have to brush all this aside.
So you feel that men look for leaders as an escape from what is?
No, and that's partly, and also he chooses the leaders.
And you've said somewhere that he's not in a position to choose
No,
the leader
when he's confused,
Yeah,
how
I think
can he
it's a
choose?
very important point. But I was thinking about leaders from the other standpoint, from the standpoint of yourself, the man who understands. Does he have a natural inclination to want to reveal the truth to others? That's what I want you to
After all,
talk
I
about.
think that's natural phenomena.
Yes.
It is not a self-appointed phenomena,
No.
a self-appointed job.
Right.
But he says, look, why live in this confusion?
Right. So it's a natural instinct then for a man who sees the truth.
It's natural, isn't it?
Yes.
When you see a beautiful sunset, to tell somebody, look.
Right. That's true. But still, you must often be asked about the apparent contradiction between the teaching that leaders are bad for people and the fact that you yourself have taken your natural position as a leader and a teacher.
No, you see, You see, first of all, leader implies authority.
Right.
Hmm?
Yes.
Then Hitlerian, Mussolini, the Pope, the whole structure for hierarchical thinking,
Yes.
which is based on authority.
Right.
But to me, authority is the most destructive thing.
Yes.
That is, I choose you as my authority because I'm afraid.
Yes.
And you encourage my fear. You know, for goodness sake, get rid of fear and you get rid of authority.
And the authority actually keeps men weak and dependent.
It's seen through churches. All the religions have done this.
Do you see psychoanalysis as being a new way to...
This is quite a different question.
Do you feel it's a different question? You don't...
No, it depends. One has to go into it very carefully.
Yes.
You see, why is there a need of any psychologist, religious teacher? You follow why? Because the person who goes to an analyst is neurotic,
Yes.
unhealthy, imbalanced.
Right.
Now, why? Society has created him that. Right?
Right.
And we don't change society. You follow what I mean?
Yes.
The individual goes to change himself through analysis.
Yes. Yes.
But society is not changed.
No.
And the evil of society, if I can use the word evil, goes on.
Yes.
See, that's why one really needs not economic or social or a communist revolution. You need a revolution at a totally different level.
Yes. Would you explain a little bit about what that level would be? Like where would the revolution take place? Within the individual?
No, not within the individual. Within the whole structure of our life.
Yes.
See, we live in fragments. You know, I'm a businessman, or I'm a priest, or I'm a professor, I'm a specialist, and we live in different compartments.
Yes.
As though they are not related to each other. You are an American, I'm an Indian, with my superstitions, and you with your superstitions, me with my peculiarities. So, we have divided the earth, we have divided our life into fragments. You are a Catholic, I'm a Protestant, you are a Hindu, you are a Buddhist. Yes, it's all too silly. And that will go on indefinitely unless there is a revolution at the center of one's thinking, being, living.
And as I understand your writing, that revolution need not be a long process.
A revolution can never be a long process. Then it's evolution.
Yes. And it's never a matter of what one is about to become, but...
Look, one has to think of it differently this way. You know, our action is always derived from an idea. I don't know, you want to...
oh yes, let's go into that.
We have ideas what we should do.
Yes.
And we're always trying to approximate action according to the formula. Approximate action to the formula.
We're not spontaneous.
No, let's not use that word, because that word is very confusing.
Spontaneous?
Yeah, because we are not, how can you be spontaneous when you're so conditioned?
But you speak of things like creative awareness, creative reality.
We'll go into that. Wait a minute, just let's see this.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
You see, we are so heavily conditioned. That's a fact.
Yes.
And our action is according to that conditioning. If if I'm a Negro or a Hindu or a white, all the rest
Yes.
of it, I act according to my conditioning in the society, according to the society in which I live.
Yes.
According to the culture, tradition, family, the whole business.
Right.
Now, as long as that pattern exists, whether it's in Russia or here, you're bound to produce an activity which is always breeding confusion. I don't know.
Oh yes, I follow you. But how is one to break out of that pattern then? I mean,
like when you see something very clearly, you break it. It's like when you see some danger, physical danger, you don't go near it. But we don't see the danger here.
so people must be made aware of...
Not made, they themselves must be aware.
They themselves must come to be aware.
The moment they are made aware, to be aware, then the person or the newspaper or the book becomes the authority.
But it seems to me that this is exactly what is most original in your writing. I've never come across this idea anywhere else. Everywhere else, like even in therapy, psychotherapy, one is made aware of something. But you are the only one I've come across who says, just look at what is.
That's right. But to look at what is one of the most difficult things. I don't know if you have noticed, if you can look at a plant or a flower or a cloud, just to look at it, how extraordinarily difficult it is. Because naturally words, your emotions, your prejudice interfere with it. Your knowledge interfere with your looking at it clearly. So to look at oneself is one of the most difficult things, because you want to change it, you want to, to put it in this pattern or in that pattern.
Is this looking at oneself is creative reality, as I understand?
I mean, it's one of the most difficult things, and it must be.
But do you feel it can be sustained, Mr. Krishnamurti? This, I think of it as it's really transcendence of the ego. I mean, I don't want to give it that label, but it comes to the same thing, doesn't it?
No, after all, as we said, when I look at myself, let's look at it for a moment. When I look at myself, what am I? I am the result of the traditions, the family, and so on of India, of a Brahmin. And unless I am free of that conditioning, I function within that very narrow, limited sphere. As the Americans, the Russians, the communists, and so on, so on. So, is it possible to be free completely of all conditioning?
Completely. Is it
Of
possible?
course, I see it is.
You say it is?
Of course.
Have you known many people who are?
That's it.
Is that the conditioned self in me who asks that question?
After all, when you see something as poison, you drop it. But to see that it is poison is one of the most difficult things.
Right. Well, the thing that I personally have experienced with seeing the poison is that I have constantly to remind myself.
And no, you don't. You don't when you see, say, a snake or some physical danger, you don't have to remind yourself.
I'm constantly being seduced by the world.
Because, not by the world, by
my own mind.
By your own mind, which derives pleasure from a certain pattern of thought.
But I feel myself to be fairly typical in this. Here I am, I've read your books, I've never been so struck by any ideas. I see the value in them, I apply them to myself, and I find that it's not only difficult, but it's a never-ending process. One has to keep at it all the time, and one is always slipping back.
No.
This is my experience.
No,
Why am I doing wrong?
Yes. No, look, physically, if there was no barrier as a window, you wouldn't go near it, would you? It's too high up, and you keep a safe distance.
Yes.
And there will be no temptation.
Yes.
Right?
Yes, I see what you mean. But apparently I'm not that sure about it.
No, you're not clear.
Not clear. That brings me to another question. Isn't this something that it takes years to become clear about?
No.
No.
Not at all.
Isn't it harder for a young person to...
No, it has nothing to do with age. That is a dreadful idea.
Sorry. Well, I was thinking that the world is more attractive to a young person, but you don't see any validity in that.
The world is attractive. You see, what is the world? Don't look at it. Huh? What?
The world is like a game, a diversion.
No, I think most people want new experiences.
But you hold out the promise of endlessly new discoveries to be made if one looks at what is.
Yes. You got enough light?
Oh, yes. Am I right to assume that you see reality as that which is unknown?
Here we enter into quite a different realm. You know what I mean?
Yes.
You see, in that question is involved time.
Time.
Of course.
In the question of about the unknown,
yes.
Is involved time?
No, look, let me put it out the other way. To us, the known is very important.
Yes. Yes.
That's the only thing we have.
Yes.
The known being my memories, my knowledge,
Yes.
my experiences, the tradition, my house.
Yes.
And anything unknown, I'm afraid.
Yes.
Anything.
Right.
Any new government, any new way of thinking, any new way of feeling. I don't like it. I push it away. Now, I can never understand something new with the known. Right?
And reality is always new.
It's always new.
So reality is always the unknown.
Of course, put it any way you like, but but can the mind be free from the known as memory? You follow what I mean? As
yes.
experience. So as to look at a tree, a flower, or a person as though you're seeing for the first time.
Yes. That's extreme.
It requires a great deal of attention.
The kind of attention you point out that we give to anything that we're really interested in, isn't it?
No, more than that. You look at that plant. When you look at that plant, what happens? You don't look at it. You say that's a fern, that is this, that's that. And already your mind has wandered away from looking at it. By giving it a name, you've already distracted it. So to look at it, the verbal interference with its source knowledge must come to an end, to look.
So actually the person who has read most and been most educated is probably in the poorest position to see things as they are.
To look things as they are.
He has the most conditioning to rid himself of, you might say.
And also it's very difficult too in that really it's like listening to anything. If I've lived with you for 10 years, I won't listen to your arguments. I mean, the first few months I might listen to what you're talking about. Afterwards I say, well, I know the pattern you have set in my mind.
Right.
And I pursue that pattern. You might have changed.
Yes. But in actuality, isn't it unlikely that I have changed?
That's not my business.
I mean, isn't it true that most people do behave in mechanical, repetitive, dull ways, so that the other is right to feel that, well, if he's familiar with me at all, he knows what I'm going to say in the next 10
that
years.
is rather a callous way of looking at it.
Yes, it is. But
Because after all,
isn't it based on something?
Oh, of course, of course.
Yeah. What do you understand by love and understanding? Are they the same?
No,
Same?
not quite. Perhaps maybe the same, or let's talk about it.
Yes.
What do you mean by the word understanding? Is it an intellectual, verbal understanding? When you use the word, I understand. I see. Is it an intellectual perception? Or merely an emotional sentiment, saying, yes, I feel very much. Now, do those two conditions bring about understanding?
No.
No. So, understanding is neither intellectual, nor verbal, nor logic, and you must have logic, intellect, all the rest of it. Nor is it emotional, sentimental.
Could you say what it is?
Yeah, you can see how it comes.
Yes.
So, when these two are not, when you are not emotionally excited, or logically clear, and reasonable, and say, well, there is no question of understanding. Understanding comes only when these two are in abeyance. When your mind is very quiet. Neither saying right or wrong, accepting or not accepting, neither conforming or not conforming. It's then when the mind is very quiet, you say, but I see it.
Did the awareness of all the things we've been talking about, did that awareness come to you all at once, or gradually, or is it difficult to say?
No, it's not. It can't be gradual. That's why I said one has to go into the question of time, you see.
Oh yes, would you?
The moment you use the word gradual, it means time. I gather a little bit today, tomorrow I gather a little more, and I built up a storehouse from which I talk or I understand. Then it's not understanding.
I know what you mean. It's a very subtle idea, and I have to really.
So this leads to a much deeper question, which is whether you see, whole concept of time is yesterday, today, and tomorrow.
Yes. Yes.
Not by the watch, I'm not talking about, but psychologically, there is the feeling that I was, I am, I will be.
Yes.
I will create a home. I will become. I will be successful, or I will not be successful. So you follow what I mean? The past through the present creates the future. That's what we call time, psychological time.
Yes.
And we think in those terms, always. I am that, I have been, I am, I'm going to change. Or I will do something. Now, if you didn't think in those terms at all, then where is time? Time, mechanically there is, must have. It takes time to get from your place to here, to go to the moon. But psychologically, what is the need of time? And is there such thing as time? In fact, which we have invented it, you follow me?
Yes, yes.
I can't do this, I will do that tomorrow.
But we haven't invented the fact that we were alive yesterday, doing certain things, thinking certain things.
Yes,
that's
but
not
what you were doing yesterday is the result of day before yesterday. And today is what you did yesterday.
Yes.
So you continue that way. There is the cause, there is the effect, and the effect becomes the cause, and so you keep going.
Yes.
And therefore you never break out of the circle.
Yes.
And so you're always caught in this misery. So one has to find out it's possible to break this chain. That is, to put a stop to time.
Do you believe that there's anything immutable that this idea of God that other people have?
Oh, no.
Is that true?
No, God is, please. That word is so loaded.
I know. But it seems to me that what you call what is, or creative reality, is what other people...
No, I wouldn't even call it. Look, first of all, either you are afraid and therefore believe.
Yes, I know what you mean.
I'm afraid. My life is so shoddy, and I'm going to die. And I'm so unhealthy physically, inwardly, morally, intellectually, and I must have some hope, because I'm brought up in fear, and I believe in God. Because the priests have told me, the churches have told me, the books have told me.
Isn't it sometimes because I have an intimation of something outside?
Wait. That's the most dangerous thing. If I'm afraid, I may have an intimation. I translate that intimation as God. But if I'm not afraid, you follow me?
Yes.
Have no fear. Completely be rid of fear. Then I'm in a position to inquire and examine if there is. But to be afraid and believe it has no meaning at all.
Yes.
It's just like any other big corporation, all the churches and the religions. Only there are priests, here there are businessmen. But not really different.
I think of them as politicians.
Of course, religious politicians. Oh, well, we don't have to do it.
No. The last question I want to ask you is, do you have any concept of immortality?
Now, wait a minute. That means what? You know, more and more, people are afraid of talking about death.
It's a taboo subject.
Taboo. But it's there. Right?
Right.
Living is not possible without dying. The two are walk together. They're together. You can't divorce them. But to understand death, I must understand living. Right?
Yes.
Which means what? The life I lead is not living. The brutality, the stupidities, the fears, the anxieties, the agony, the despair of living, the loneliness of it all. That's I call living, but it's not. It's agony. Is it possible to be free of that? That means, is it possible to die to all that? If I can die, then I will know what living is, and also I will know what death is.
Yes, I know what you mean, yes. But that's because I've read your books. And if our audience will do the same, they may begin a new life.